You've probably seen it happen over and over again. The woman you wanted, the woman you respected, the woman you would have done anything for, ends up with a man who barely looked in her direction. And you sit there wondering, what the hell is going on? You did everything right. You listened. You cared. You remembered her birthday. You asked how her day went. You gave her emotional availability, vulnerability, effort, and what did it get you? A, you're sweet, but K, a ghost, a slow fade, a friend zone. And then you watch her run after the guy who never answered her texts, the one who cancels plans last minute, the one who jokes about feelings like they're diseases, the one who never chases because he knows he doesn't have to. And that's when it starts to mess with your head. You begin to think there must be something wrong with being a good man. But it's not about good or bad. Nietzsche would say, it's about power, about presence, about who controls the emotional space between two people. Because when you care too soon, too obviously, too much, you give your power away. Not maliciously, not manipulatively, but unconsciously. You collapse yourself to be chosen, okay? And women, whether they know it or not, wired to follow emotional gravity, to chase what feels self-possessed, not what feels overly available. And Nietzsche understood this. He said, he who has a why to live can bear almost anyhow. And in relationships, your why has to be rooted in you, not in her approval, her attention, or her affection. Not. The man who doesn't care too much too soon isn't careless, he's centered. He doesn't orbit around her emotional storms. He stands still in himself, okay? And that stillness becomes magnetic. It's not cruelty, quitty. She doesn't fall for him because he's mean. She falls for him because he's unmoved by her chaos, because his sense of worth isn't hanging on her responses. And that, ironically, makes her want to win him over. Because people chase what they feel they haven't fully conquered. She won't say this out loud. She might not even realize it. But emotionally, women fall toward emotional sovereignty, okay? And most good guys give that away without knowing it. They try to deserve love instead of embodying it. They perform kindness like currency, hoping for connection in return. But real connection can't be bought, it can only be felt. And the truth is, when you lead with need, even if it's dressed up as love, people feel it and they pull back. Not because you're not enough, but because you're asking them to complete something you haven't yet built inside yourself. And maybe that's what's hardest to admit. Not that she didn't want you, but that you didn't want yourself enough. That in every moment you tried to show her how valuable she was, you were secretly hoping she'd reflect that value back to you. That her love would confirm your worth. That her attention would patch the silence inside you. But Nietzsche said, become who you are, not become who she needs. Not become what society calls a good man, but become. Which means not shrinking for love, not bending yourself into shapes, just to be more palatable, more acceptable, more liked. The man who women chase, ISNT, heartless ease, full of something too many men lack. Self-respect, so rooted that he doesn't need to perform for intimacy. He shows up as himself and lets the world decide. And if she doesn't choose him, he doesn't break, he doesn't beg, he doesn't unravel, because he was never hinging his identity on being chosen in the first place. That's the energy women feel, and it confuses them at first. They test it, they poke it, they wait for the crack, for the moment he starts chasing, starts adjusting himself to keep her up. When he doesn't, when he remains unmoved, stable, cliché becomes the one who leans in. Because she realizes she's not dealing with a man who's hungry for validation. She's standing in front of someone who's already full. And you've been starving for approval, for a connection that would prove you're lovable. And in that hunger, you became too much, too fast, too available. Not because you were wrong, but because you hadn't yet anchored into who you were without her. And that's the real work, not learning tricks, not playing games, not becoming colder or pretending not to care, but learning how to stand so firmly in your own worth that rejection doesn't shake you, that being overlooked doesn't dismantle you, that not being chosen feels like redirection, not devastation. Nietzsche didn't teach detachment, he taught power. And real power, especially in love, is not needing someone else's desire to access your own. It's being fully here, fully alive, and fully okay even if she walks away. And that is the shift most men never make, because they've been taught since the beginning that love is something you earn, that you need to prove your intentions, that being chosen is the ultimate validation. So they wait to be noticed, wait to be appreciated, wait to be loved back in equal measure. But Nietzsche would say, the man who waits to be picked has already surrendered his will. He's given his agency away. And in doing so, he becomes passive in the one thing he was meant to lead his life. That's why so many good men feel invisible. Not because they aren't lovable, but because they've handed all the power to someone else's approval. But when you stop waiting, when you stop organizing your identity around who stays and who leaves, something changes. You stop asking, why don't they want me? Okay? You start asking, why did I give them the power to decide my worth? And in that question, everything shifts. Key, you start reclaiming pieces of yourself you forgot you even lost. You walk differently, speak with less explanation. You no longer approach women with anxiety wrapped in kindness. You approach as a whole man with depth, with direction, with the quiet understanding that you belong to yourself now. And from that energy, attraction happens differently. Women don't feel chased, they feel drawn, because you're not trying to convince anyone. Here, simply living fully, and that's what real confidence is. Not the loud kind, not the arrogant kind, but the rare kind that says, I don't need to impress you. I just need to be real with you. And if that's not enough, then you're not for me. That's what Nietzsche meant when he said, the individual has always had to struggle to keep from being overwhelmed by the tribe. In modern dating, the tribe is the noise, the pressure to perform, to text back a certain way, to act like you don't care when you do, or to care too much when you shouldn't. But when you rise above that noise, when you stop trying to be the man everyone wants and start being the man you actually are, that S, when everything aligns, not because you've mastered the game, but because you're no longer playing it. You're simply living it, authentically, fearlessly, sovereign. And in that sovereignty, you don't chase women. You attract the ones who are ready. Ready for depth, ready for calm, ready for a man who doesn't need them, but chooses them. Freely, fully, without hiding, without shrinking, without pretending. That's the man they can't forget. That's the man they stop running from. Not because he didn't care, but because he didn't collapse. And here's the paradox that breaks most men. You think you have to stop caring in order to win? You think the secret is to shut down, to play cool, to be distant enough so you don't get hurt. Okay, but the truth isn't that you care too much, it's that you care in a way that leaks insecurity. Caring isn't weakness. Caring without grounding, without self-respect, without boundaries, that's what turns care into need. Wasn't telling men to become stone. He was telling them to become steel strong, centered, unshakable, but still human. The most powerful men don't love less. They love from wholeness. They know their value, and because of that, their love isn't a plea, it's a gift. It's not given in exchange for being wanted. It's not offered as a down payment for future security. It's simply there, full, rich, clear. And women feel that difference immediately. One man says, I love you, and she feels pressure. Another says it, and she feels peace. The difference isn't the words, it's the man behind them. So you don't need to stop caring. You need to stop making her the source of your emotional identity. You need to stop collapsing every time you don't get the response you hoped for. You need to stop proving yourself and start being yourself. That's what makes you unforgettable, not how much you give, but how deeply rooted you are in what you give. Women fall for men who dan her not because they cold, but because they dan need love to fix them. They're not chasing healing through another person. They've already done the work. They've already gone through the silence, through the loneliness, through the pain of not being enough for someone who didn't see them. And they survived. They built themselves from that ruin. And now, when they reach not to be loved back, it's because they're already full. That's what Nietzsche would admire, not detachment, but discipline, not apathy, but power. The man who can feel everything and still stand tall. The man who can want her, but not worship her. The man who can give his heart, but never give it away in exchange for his self-worth. No, don't stop caring. Start caring from a place of wholeness. Stop trying to be the good guy and start becoming yourself clearly, unapologetically, without needing to be chosen to feel real. 'Cause when you do that, when you really become the man who no longer waits to be picked, but walks his path with or without applause, that's when everything changes. That's when women stop wondering if you're enough and start wondering if they are. That's when love stops being a chase and starts being a choice. Her choice, your choice, equal, free, unforced. That's the kind of love Nietzsche wouldn't just explain, he'd respect. And that's the kind of man you were always meant to become.